Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the June 13th Early Learning Board meeting. We'll begin the meeting as we normally do with the mission, and Elaine Yamoshita has agreed to share the mission with us today. Elaine? Elaine, are you here? I'm gonna try again. Elaine, are you on? I thought I saw your name.
She was in earlier.
She's what?
She's not in there right now. She, see if I can find her. I'll send her your name.
And I think she stepped away. Okay, in the absence of Elaine, I will share the mission for today. The Early Learning Board mission is to support children's academic and lifelong well-being by directing and supporting the Executive Office on Early Learning for an effective, coordinated, high-quality early learning system from prenatal to kindergarten entry. Something we keep in mind as we do our work during this meeting. Next, we'll take a roll call. Oh, I see we have a message. Thanks, Stephanie. Call for members attending to ensure that we have a quorum. Alana Bauman.
Here.
Ellie Burgess is absent. Cheryl Kudiyama.
Here.
Soma Gandhi.
Here.
Lindsay Heathcock.
Here.
Joni Onishi.
I'm here.
I thought I saw you. Stephanie Shipton.
Here.
Thank you. Elaine, are you with us now? Yamashita? No, still not here. Dana Luca,
Here.
Rochelle Mahoy,
Here.
Paul Peters is here, Napul Rosehill,
Ew.
Stephen Schatz,
Here.
and Matt Shim, I think, is not with us yet. Matt, are you here yet? He will be joining us late. We do have a quorum so that we can proceed with the business of the meeting. One major announcement that I wanted to share before we started is that you may have noticed that there are not two instances for public comment and testimony, but now it will be possible for public testimony to be given related to each agenda item as we report on it. And the process is going to be one of, if there is a report or a presentation, we will invite public testimony after that report or presentation, and then invite the board to engage in questioning or discussion. So that any public presentation that's offered is before the board engages in conversation. And we will do that for each of the appropriate items. There are some that doesn't work for, like approval of the minutes. It's not the same type of thing. So this is a change, and we will be doing this for each of the agenda items that we have that are relevant and appropriate. I also wanted to remind the board that we have only 7 of 9 voting members currently seated on the board, which means that a quorum for the board is 4, since it's a majority vote that needs to be taken. Next month, we'll be back to 8 board members because Cowie Burgess will officially become a board member, having completed her term on the Stadium Authority at that particular time. So a quorum is 4 of the present number of voting members, just to be sure. The meeting is recorded as usual. A quorum of members must be visible and audible. The private chat comment feature is disabled and all chat will be public information, just to be sure everyone's aware of that. And all votes will be conducted by roll call. So let's begin the agenda with the review and approval of the minutes. The chair moves for the approval of the minutes of the May 9th, 2024 meeting as presented. Is there a second?
This is Elaine. I second that.
Thank you. The minutes have been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to take a vote on approving the minutes of the May meeting as presented. Alana,
Aye.
Cheryl,
Aye.
Soma,
Aye.
Lindsay.
Aye.
Joni,
Aye.
Stephanie,
Aye.
thank you. Elaine, are you here with us yet?
Yes, I.
Thank you. Elaine, just for your information, I stepped in and did the mission, so you'll have to do it at your first meeting next time when there's a new chair at that point. All right, so the minutes have been approved as presented. We'll move to item number 3 on the agenda, which is a board member report on an event attended. And just to give some context for this particular report that's going to be given, according to sunshine rules, 2 or more members of a board, but less than a number of members that would constitute a quorum for a board may attend an informational meeting or presentation on matters relating to board business, including a meeting of another entity, legislative hearing, convention, seminar, or community meeting, provided that the meeting or presentation is not specifically and exclusively organized for or directed toward members of the board. The board members in attendance may participate in discussions, including discussions among themselves, provided that the discussions occur during and as part of the informational meeting or presentation, and provided further that no commitment relating to a vote on the matter is made or sought. And at the next duly noticed meeting of the board members shall report their attendance and the matters presented and discussed that related to board business at the informational meeting or presentation. And as if you've done the training already, you probably bumped into this particular element of the Sunshine Law. If you haven't already, you will be reading or learning about communication among board members. And this is one of the related factors. And so in this instance, a number of our members attended the Department of Education's Early Learning Conference on June 4th, 2024. And Alana has agreed to share a report that Cowie, who was able to attend the entire meeting, presented with us today. So Alana, I turn the mic over to you at this point.
Okay, again, on behalf of Cowie, I'm sharing the report for the High DOE Early Learning Conference. So this conference was hosted by the High DOE Office of Curriculum and Instructional Design with the use of ESSER funds. About the conference, the purpose of the conference was to share about best practices, classroom experiences, and helpful instructional strategies and teaching ideas for high DOE early learning educators. This was on June 4th, 2024, from 8:30 to 3:00 p.m. at the Hilton Hawaiian Village Choral Ballrooms. Invitees included high DOE teachers, ELBL staff, and the Early Learning Board. Mahalo to High DOE Superintendent Hayashi for inviting the ELB. Early Learning Board attendees were myself, Cowie Burgess, Rochelle Mahoy, Keiko Nita for Matt Shim, Napua Rosehill, and Stephanie Shipton. Conference featured speakers were Adam Peterson, Hillary Statham, and Dee Dee Wills. They toured different states providing this presentation. A summary of the speaker presentations. Adam Peterson is a teacher, website, search for Adam Peterson Education, author of Teach, Play, Learn, author of Yellow, see beyellow.org for more information, a movement that went viral, podcast, classroom collab, philosophy, learning works best when teachers develop a relationship with each student. Consistency is key, engage and excite, step out of your comfort zone to connect with the student who refuses to connect. Hillary Statham has a blog, Pencils to Pigtails, mother of 3, teaches literacy, shared data and information published in the Science of Reading, believes that children should practice phonemic awareness every day from preschool to 2nd grade, at least 5 minutes per day. Shared many recommendations on teaching literacy and phonics in early learning through body movements and physically interactive lessons. Dee Dee Wills teaches writing. Her blog is Mrs. Wills' Kindergarten Blog, believes that at the age of 2 years, a child can start learning how to hold a pencil correctly, and write 5 minutes per day, every day, through K through 1st grade. Philosophy, modeled writing by / with teacher necessary to learn how to compose text, generate ideas, learn writing fluency. Believes students should learn to draw with detail. Adam Peterson came back to stage to share games that he uses to teach early learners. He shared a list of games, including board games like Candyland Memory Game and Let's Go Fishing. Conference closing. At the end of the conference, the presenter shared a QR code for attendees to access teaching tools that were shared in the presentation and free files of information to use in the classroom. Those who clicked on the QR code were also added to an email list, allowing them to be included on ongoing information sharing. Recipients of the emails received prompts to prepare encouragement worksheets, deals on educational materials, links to the blogs of the presenters, and more. The speakers stayed after the conference, allowing attendees to ask questions and get more information.
Thank you, Lana. And thank you, Cowie, for helping to put that report together. Are there any comments from the public that wish to be shared at this point? I don't see anything in the chat, so we'll open it up for any comments that board members might have, particularly board members who attended, if there is information that, in addition, you might like to share. Rochelle, may I ask you a question since you are attached to the DOE, and it may be an unfair one, but I know you're at the conference as well. Is the DOE pursuing the science of reading approach?
Yes. So a
Okay.
structured literacy approach based on the science of reading.
And is this part of the training then that teachers are getting around the science of reading, or is there?
So today we also had a literacy leadership summit for the yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So it is something they are pursuing. I think one of for the EL conference we had, the early learning conference we had last week, I think the presenters did try and find a way of what they need to teach in literacy and how can you make it exciting, joyful, playful, and not a skill and drill type. So I think that was what their emphasis was, while the DOE may be, right, we have standards and they want a structured literacy approach, but how do you make it fun, engaging, exciting, and not where it's skill and drill, but rather skill and thrill, and how to make it exciting for kids and really making it playful, right? But intentional, and that there is a target. So it was really about being intentional and putting that joy back, especially at the early ages. So I know there's a little bit of struggle, but I just want people to be reassured that while they are trying to go towards, really move towards the science of reading and having that foundational reading skills, but how can they do it in a way that's also, age appropriate and developmentally
Thank
appropriate.
you. That was my underlying question, so I'm glad I didn't have to ask it. You answered it directly. I appreciate that. Anyone else have any additional comments or questions?
I just want to apologize to my fellow board, to Chair Peters. I was supposed to attend that day, but I had staff that was unexpectedly out at a preschool. For those that don't know, I do run a preschool day, day to day. And thank you for actually asking that question, because I won't speak too long at this time, but I can tell you that the children are different today. So I'm a little worried about actually, I'll listen in later what was discussed at the conference, but yeah, a little worried when I hear about pencil holding at 2, reading at 2. To be super duper honest, just to have the children sit today, even for 5 minutes at 2, is quite difficult. Back in the day, we could have a ratio of 1 to 8, 1 to 6. I am adding more staff to my 2-year-old class. Our ratio is 1 to 4, 1 to 2, sometimes 1 to 1, depending on the child. Yeah, so yes, actually, yeah, I'm really curious how it's going to play out at the DOE level.
I think that's a general issue that people have some concerns about. And what I have been reading personally, there are mixed results in the science of reading approach, depending upon who's delivering it and how it's being delivered. So I'm encouraged by what Rochelle was talking about today. And yet we also know that there is some real value in the content that's being taught. And the goal is to create readers. So how do we best do that? I guess is the key. So while we are not in a position as a board to determine the curriculum of what EOEL classrooms do, we will probably engage in some of the conversation about what are the principles that guide the curriculum and the policies that relate to it. All right, I don't see any other comments from any board members. Thank you again, Alana, for stepping in and helping out with this report. And we appreciate the invitation from the superintendent for our board members to be attendees at this conference. The next item on the agenda is the report from the Executive Office on Early Learning. And I'll turn it over to Yuko and her staff to share. And as we do each section, we will invite public comment at that point. So Yuko.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. The first piece we're going to go through is the legislative session wrap up. And Lane will do this for us.
So hi, I'm just for the people on the call. I'm Lane Suchi. I'm an institutional analyst with the Executive Office on Early Learning. So this legislative session wrapped up about a month ago, I think the first week of May 2024. The significant bills that passed this legislative session of importance to the EOEL and the Early Learning Board would be Senate Bill 3087. And that's relating to early learning. It was the amendments to Hawaii Revised Statute Section 302L-1.7, which is presently the pre-plus statute that authorizes the state to have pre-plus programs on the DOE campuses, and the bill allows the state to, or the EOEL to expand that concept to early learning facilities statewide. Or public buildings, sorry, public buildings through a public-private partnership. There was also Senate Bill 3116, which is related to the preschool open doors program that made amendments to the existing Department of Human Services preschool open doors program so that they can maximize the enrollment for that program. Senate Bill 2937, and that's relating to access to early learning, access to learning, which made amendments to Act 46, Session Laws of Hawaii Regular Session 2020, to exempt the Hawaiian language laboratory schools from the standards, assessments, performance rating, staff qualifications, and staff training requirements identified in Act 46. And House Bill 2074, and that's relating to Kaiapuni education. That's the State of Hawaii Hawaiian language program. And that was adding appropriations so that the Office of Hawaiian Education can have, I believe, 10 more positions within the office to handle the expansion or whatever they're going to pursue in the future. And also the last item is House Bill 1800, which is the supplemental appropriations bill for 2024. And the impact for that is that it was a steady state budget. There were no cuts. And the legislature allowed the addition of 2 positions, temporary positions to the EOEL at $130,000. So those were 2 positions that were program specialist positions related to the state or preschool development grant for through 5. So the intention is to establish those positions and hire them to help with the implementation of the PDGB5 grant.
Thank you.
Are there any members of the public who wish to offer comments at this point related to the legislative session wrap up? See, Linda?
Hello, I'm Linda Elinto. I wasn't sure if now's a good time or if there was another better place than the agenda, but I had a couple of comments regarding, I guess, the preschool open doors and for children with disabilities, and as far as the order and so forth goes. And second would be, I wasn't sure, do you do 0 to 3 early intervention, or is this just for like preschool and older? That's my question. Can anyone respond real quick? No?
For the.
Oh, hi there.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yuko was waiting for me to give her the nod.
I'm so sorry. We're sitting in the same room, and so I was looking to see if I was going to have permission to start talking to you or not. And so,
Okay,
and if
okay.
we could discuss this at this time. So the Executive Office on Early Learning has 2 primary functions. One of them is to assist with the coordination of the early care and education system. Another part is the implementation of the EOEL public pre-K program. And we also hold the Head Start State Collaboration Office in our office. So in terms of preschool open doors, it is facilitated by Department of Human Services, even though, we can work on coordination with them and somebody from Department of Human Services does sit on the early learning board. And then in terms of 0 to 3 early intervention, EOEL can assist with that, but that primarily runs through the Department of Health. And the Department of Health also sits on the early learning board. So I'm not sure if that answers what you're looking for.
It does. It does. I've presented testimony in the past, so it just seems like all my areas of interest are split among all the agencies. So, but my concern would be with early intervention. I think our state is ready and to be able to look at the idea that the special education law, IDA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, allows for our state to be able to allow parents to be able to continue early intervention in lieu of special education services. So I wanted to ask if that's something this particular board can look at and actually put on an agenda item and get some more research and information regarding the need for that, and working, coordinating with Department of Education. I think they would be willing and open to look at the idea of the needs of our children who are at the preschool age, but still have been in early intervention, and who would best benefit from that particular type of service, as well as just as like the age, like if a military family comes in and their child turns 3, say like in October, be able to have some flexibility here to be able to stay in early intervention, um, or, rather than trying to join a preschool class midway through a semester. So that's just a brief example, but I won't get into more details right now, but I would like to ask that that be an agenda item, something that um, that can be discussed. But also with the preschool open doors, I've had experience as a parent, and now as um, I'd say over 27 years ago. So I know the program's been along for a while, and I'm very grateful that the the income levels have finally changed, even though I personally totally disagreed with the interpretation of the Hawaii administrative rules when it comes to the federal poverty levels. I guess the way the Hawaii administrative rules are written, if you look at the definitions, I believe that it supported the annual increase. But when I read the administrative rules now, it's finally taken in consideration that FPL changes every year, and that the income should definitely change appropriately or every year. But oh yeah, last thing. For the, I think it's in the administrative rules or the revised statutes, I don't remember, but my concern as a parent, as well as experience and now as a grandparent, children with disabilities who are eligible for special education should not, all of us, should not be, I guess, penalized. They should be able to go for childcare grants, be able to ask for preschool open doors, even if they are qualified for special ed, because when it comes to special ed programs, it basically is not their choice. It's something they can, or or they can choose not to do. It's not mandatory. Whereas the grants and so forth, the other programs that our state offers, they should be able to equally ask for those services, or ask for that. So I don't have the specific administrative rule or revised statute that I'm thinking about that I've read multiple times, but I'd like to ask that that be looked at. And I'd like to know who I can send more information to or talk to, so I can be a little bit more clear on what I'm trying to say. But again, just based on my experience, I remember having a child with Down syndrome, and he's 3. And when I was looking into these options, like with preschool open doors, I'm being told, well, he can already go to school. So there's nothing, we don't have anything for him, but he should have been able to have access to that. So just like my typical developing, older kid did. So I appreciate your time and listening to this brief testimony. I tried to make it brief, but I can just want to ask that if I can be contacted or have someone to contact over there. I think it's important and to our community. And thank you for this time to be able to share.
Thank you, Linda. Is there any other public comment? I see no others in the chat, so I'm going to ask, are there any questions or comments from board members with regard to the legislative round? I'd like to make one. I think we've been really successful on some key issues. I know there are other areas we would like to have seen greater progress, but to know that these have gone on and the budget has survived what was a bit worrisome period of time is exciting to see. So thank you for the good work of the staff and Yuko in providing the kind of testimony to help move these bills forward. And we'll move to the next item. executive office report.
Excuse me, Bob, before we move on. This is Elaine. I just had a question because I know the board, or you on behalf of the board submitted testimony on several bills other than the ones that were mentioned. So, do we get a report on those bills also? Or that's just left up to us to look up?
We gave reports, we're giving reports on the bills that survived.
Okay,
The other bills that we supported did not survive.
right, the compensation one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. Okay. All right, you go.
And then I'm going to move on to the rest of, so I do the next section and then I'll stop in the next section.
You want to what?
Do I do the section on the public pre-K and the, the roadmap?
You
and
can
then
do it
stop
in
and
order
then
you
do
want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So so related to our early learning board's roadmap on workforce development and support. In addition to what was already mentioned in the legislative session wrap up, we just also want to highlight that the funds that were secured previously and also initiated by the donation from the Samuel and Mary Castle Foundation are still available to continue to build up the early care and education system. So this stipend program is available to anybody who works in the 0 to 5 range, anybody. And so if you're looking forward to joining the early care and education field, or if you want to make progress on your credentials, or you need additional credentials for a next layer that you're trying to learn about, feel free to apply for the fall term. Applications must be received by July 15. In terms of action item number 2 on the roadmap addressing facilities for early childhood education programs, I wanted to give an update on the progress of the renovations for the 55 EOEL public pre-K spaces that were identified at the initial biennium back in 2023 session. So we were awarded 55 new classrooms. 11 opened at the beginning of the school year, 1 opened mid-school year, and the rest are going to be opening up this upcoming school year. So of those 55 rooms that we asked for, 20 are already completed. There are 26 that are in the midst of their construction and renovation. 7 are in bidding. And 1 is an in-site assessment. So for the Lanai, that 1 site assessment, Lanai will still open in August. There are a little bit of challenges with the facility location and what have you, but the school is aware everybody's okay with starting. They will still get their furniture. It's just that we don't want to interrupt. Due to the timing of it, we don't want the school to be delayed in their opening, and we also don't want to disturb student learning. So it will come probably at the semester mark. And then one of the other schools that we're opening up at is King Kamehameha III. It is a temporary school, so there's no renovation work that's going to happen at that site. But they did get a new set of furniture, so their room will still be very similar to the rest of the schools as much as possible. In terms of, again, funding and the system, so EOEL launched our online application process, and through our online portal, we've received, it's slightly over 400. There's some duplications with some families entering a couple. The true raw number is 441, but we know that there are some duplications in there. So we know that it's at least 400, but it could be higher. I wanted to just show that at the end of May, this is kind of how our applications have been distributed by island. You can see how many rooms are available on each island and how many applications we have received by island. And again, this is just at the end of May, and it does not include the beginning of June for those yet. Action item number 3 is funding for the early care and education system. EOL does support family-child interaction learning programs. And we were able to award to Partners in Development the facilitation of these FCILs at Nanakuli Elementary School in Kailua. Their contract will start on July 1. And in terms of action item number 4, addressing program quality improvement and maintenance, there's going to be an upcoming Build Summit, Quality Improvement Systems Summit in August. And what's happening is they're convening state, community, and tribal quality improvement leaders. And they're going to take a look at policy, their designs, their implementations, their evaluations. So some people already have it up and running, and they're kind of taking a look at it and seeing what's been going well, what might need to change, what are some other considerations. And so Hawaii will be sending a team of that includes Terry Luck, Department of Human Services, EOEL, and we do have a couple of representatives from the Early Learning Board who are going to be attending this. For the preschool development grant, we were awarded 2 positions. I'm going to be very honest in that it's been very difficult to try to establish these positions. So the fiscal holder is Hawaii P20, and it's not Hawaii P20's fault. So it's just that Hawaii P20 receives it, then they have to show that EOEL can have this money for these positions, which we have already agreed to. But then EOEL has to establish the position descriptions and then get I call it the fund bucket, but essentially the PDGB5 bank account in EOEL, and then post. And so the Department of Education, who is our background for Office of Talent Management, they have a certain process. And by the time they were ready to post, there was not 90 days left remaining with the grant because it's year to year. So we could not post the position last year. So then we waited again to the beginning of this year. So again, here's your letter, P20. P20 gives their letter to EOEL. Now at least it's already up. And so we're working on getting it posted. So that's where we're at right now. It's 2 different ones. So one is a program specialist that's going to assist with the new state plan that we're going to begin to work on once our comprehensive needs assessment is completed. And the other one is a family support specialist. So how do we have family engagement? How do we also support outreach? And other things that you can see here on the page. And then last for us, we're very excited to welcome Esther Kim. She's the new secretary for EOEL. She's moving over from the Department of Education. And what we were most excited about was that she knows how to do budget. She knows a lot about facilities, and she knows how to do travel, which is very good for our office. What's also neat is that she's bilingual. And an interesting tidbit about her is that she used to be in the field of fashion design. And she has actually been able to design clothes for people who have used it in very public situations, which is really neat. Thank you.
A woman of many skills.
Yes.
Before I ask for any public comment on the second portion of Yuko's report, a reminder that there is a 2-minute time limit to discuss the agenda items. If you would keep that in mind, please, as you do your sharing. Is there any public comment related to any of the items that you could just addressed? The public pre-K expansion and roadmap, the items listed there, the family support specialist positions as well for the PDGB5 grant. I see nothing in the chat. Any comments or questions from board members or Yuko related to those items? Go ahead, Elaine.
So the 400 applications that were received online, does that include paper applications as well?
No, that's just the online.
Okay.
The other numbers of paper applications.
Oh.
I was wondering, what's your sense of where we're at with applications in comparison to other years?
We've received a lot of applications at this point, yes.
Okay.
A lot higher than in years past. So right now, we call it like the first marking period. So all applications that were received from March until the end of May, schools have begun their enrollment process at the beginning of June, looking at what we call priority and preference. So we have, EOL has our priority areas that we're responsible for in statute. And then we also give preference to the homeschool that's hosting the EOL public pre-K. And the reason for that is those children will be able to matriculate into kindergarten. Even though we don't have this GE process for EOL public pre-K, if you attend a school at, let's say, Chair Peters School, but that's not your homeschool, when you go to kindergarten, you're gonna have to apply for GE or return to your homeschool. So what we're trying to do first is look at students who will not have to make that extra move first. And then after this initial marking period, then we're going to start to look at children who are still in priority area, who are in priority categories, but maybe out of the geographic region. And then after that, pending space availability, it opens up to whoever else might be interested.
Is the increase, do you think, because of the ease with which the online application can now be completed, or are there other factors that are making a difference?
I think there's lots of other factors. I think from the work of everybody here, early learning has definitely become more elevated and in the public eye. And I think more people are realizing that they might have an option someplace, whether it's because of the increase in preschool open doors or through public pre-K. But also, we also have many other options, like new charter options. There's some other options that are popping up on neighbor islands. So I think just from the work of the field, it is elevated and now people are looking and are able to access it.
That's encouraging. Because we did have concerns about whether people really knew
Yes,
that
yes,
these opportunities existed.
yes, absolutely.
It's good to know that they are taking greater advantage at this point of the opportunities provided. Thank you, Yuko. Any other questions or comments from board members? Before we move on?
Maybe
I
just a
just
quick,
wanna- Oh,
oh, you can go first. I can talk after.
I was just gonna comment that just in my own area, we're opening, I think, 5 classrooms for EOEL classrooms. And this year, it was a lot easier to staff with teachers. So I think some of the locations we opened up in might be desirable, as well as I think like some people, unfortunately, we might be robbing from the private sector, but I think yeah, I think the benefits, I think because they get as a state employee might be attracting them too. I'm not sure, but it just seemed a little bit like we had a more choice than we did last year and in previous year coming, maybe because of coming out of COVID. But I think we're having high quality instructors. So that's a good thing.
Thank you, Risha. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Yeah, again, I apologize. I don't already know this. I know based on the applications, based on the geographic area, I guess the makeup of the classroom, will all the children be combined in one classroom? That would be a possibility. Depending on the ages, there might be a 3-year-old class, a 4-year-old class.
So it's most schools they're doing it multi-age because most schools only have one.
Correct, that's what I presume.
Yes,
And the ages again, youngest is 3 or 2.
3 years old. So it's
Gotcha.
3-year-old, 2 years prior to kindergarten. It's a slight differentiation because DOE SPED pre-K can take from the day they turn 3.
Correct.
But EOEL is now aligned with charters because charters previously accepted 3s, but we were only accepting 4s.
Okay.
And also preschool open doors used to be only 4s. So now we are all 3-4, 3-4, and
Good to know.
Right. Are there any other questions before we move on? Hearing none, thank you, Hugo and staff for your sharing. We'll move to item 5 on the agenda, which is public board member roles and responsibilities. And we're fortunate this afternoon to have Randy Moore with us. Some of you may have read recently that Randy has unretired once again to assume the role of interim deputy superintendent of operations for the Hawaii Department of Education, a position he held previously. For those of you who don't know Randy, he's a former businessman who, after retiring the first time from directing Kaneohe Ranch and his involvement with the Harold K.L. Castle Foundation, entered a teaching credential program and began teaching at what was then Central Intermediate School, with the goal in life to become a principal, because he felt strongly that it's through principalship that you make a difference in advancing schools and moving them forward. But his skills were desired at the administrative level, and he was lured away from the classroom by Pat Hamamoto.
It's called vacuuming.
Yeah. And worked for the DOE before officially retiring some years ago. Randy has served on a number of boards in the private sector, ranging from the Samuel Ann and Mary Castle Foundation, the Harold K.L. Castle Foundation. I was fortunate enough to have him on my board at Honolulu for 12 years, where he served as president for 7, or I guess you were chair. Whatever he is. He was my boss, whichever way you wish to look at it. And he has, of course, since then served on a number of public boards, probably most recently and visibly on the UH Board of Regents under 2 governors, served as chairperson and vice chairperson throughout first terms. And in addition to that, he has found time to chair the Hawaii Housing Development Corporation and to serve as a director for the Grove Farm Company Incorporated. He brings an immense amount of experience and knowledge to the subject matter of governance. And when we first became a board in 2017, I asked Randy if he would come and share a bit about the roles and responsibilities of a public board member and to offer us some guiding principles to consider. And this seems a fitting time to have him back as we welcome a new board and many new board members. Some of you who have served on private boards, I know, but not too many of you have served on public boards. And believe me, as somebody who understands the private world, entering the public board world is a different matter in many, many cases. So Randy, I appreciate you joining us as always and sharing your wisdom with us. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Oh, you're very kind. Is there a place I should stand or sit? Oh,
Yep, if you're right here,
I'm right here, I'm okay.
you'll be okay. I think. Is Randy going to appear?
The mountains
Yeah.
here.
There's your sheet.
Okay, I have 10 copies. Mostly because I have a terrible time as the audience trying to follow any of this stuff, so let me pass them out.
Fine.
And for those of you who are on the. Those of you who are on, oh, there, is that visible if you are online?
I think I can see it very clearly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is sort of a list that Bob and I put together on what is a board member all about, and more specifically, what is a public entity board member all about? Because as Bob said, they are different animals. So the first item there says, what is governing versus what is management? The governing board's responsibility says there, you set the mission, the goals, strategic direction, what desired outcomes do you want the organization to have? And then you hire somebody to make it happen. Having hired somebody to make it happen, then you approve their own personal work plans and you evaluate them. Oversight means, is the organization achieving its goals? Most important, where's the evidence? You usually work off of metrics, numbers, outcomes. Are those being realized? And how do you know? Is the organization behaving ethically? Are you doing not only the right things, but are you doing them the right way? Is the organization financially responsible? Staying within your means, you're getting the money that you need, and are you spending it appropriately? And are the compensation and working conditions of your staff up to snuff? You can find evidence that they're not by rapid turnover. You need to be competitive. And even though you're working in the public sector employees are entitled to appropriate compensation and good working conditions. Item D, governance is not problem solving. And this is a difficult concept to resist. Because if you're a group of people and somebody plops a problem on the table, your natural human impulse is, well, we got to solve it. That's why we're here. But a governing board doesn't solve problems. Somebody plops a problem on the table, you say, executive director, that's why you're here. You fix it. If you need our approval to fix it because of whatever policies we have in place, you need to come back to us with, I have looked at the problem. We have alternatives A, B, and C, and I recommend B because bop, bop, bop. And then the board can approve it. So board, you don't solve the problems. You're not here to solve problems. You're here to help your executive move the organization along. And number E is the worst thing you can hear anybody say is we don't micromanage. Not because you should micromanage, because if you say we don't micromanage, means we can manage in ways that aren't micro. And the board's job is not to manage. Job is to govern. If the board manages, who governs? You've abdicated your governance responsibilities if you try to manage. So never say we don't micromanage, because that implies we do macromanage. And you don't want to macromanage. You don't want to do management in any way, shape, or form. Number two, what authority does an individual governing board member have? As an individual board member, you have absolutely no authority. None. The board has the authority, but the individual board member does not. Unless there's a parenthetical, unless the board explicitly authorizes the board member to speak for the board. But it has to be very explicit. Who speaks for the board? The chair, unless the board has delegated to some particular member because of expertise or whatever, you speak for us. But normally the board chair is the only one that speaks for the board. And that's sometimes a challenge when you get the legislature involved. Who speaks for the organization? The executive director. The board doesn't speak for the organization. The executive speaks for the organization. Board chair speaks for the board. Board members don't speak for anybody. Number 5, what is the difference between I represent and on the other hand, I am representative of? Often board members, we want somebody from this sector and somebody from that and da 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 da. If you are appointed because of your role in one of those sectors that is supposed to be represented on the board, you are there as a representative of that sector. You don't represent that sector. You bring a perspective, but the sector didn't appoint you, typically. Typically, you're appointed by the government. So you don't say, well, I'm a representative of private preschools. You're not a representative of private preschools. You represent their perspective. You bring a perspective. and you actually don't advocate for your constituency. You say, here's what I believe, because you, again, you're not appointed by your constituents. Here's what I believe most people in my constituency would say if presented with a question on this topic. So you're representing, you're presenting a perspective. You're not saying this is what we, my sector, this is what we want. Not your job. You need to leave your private hat on, private hat off when you come to the boardroom. You don't leave your private brain away, but you are not saying, we want this. Not your job. It's an important distinction between I represent and I'm a representative of. Very important to be a representative of, dangerous to be I represent, unless you are explicitly elected by your constituency to represent them. If you're a legislator, you say, well, I represent the 25th district, even though hardly anybody voted for it. But if you can legitimately say that, I represent the district. What is the difference between telling someone what outcomes are desired and telling them how to achieve them? As a board member, you've got your mission, goals, objectives, and so on and so forth. But you don't tell your executive, here's the way I want you to get this goal. Because if you say, here's the goal and here's how you got to do it, first of all, you've removed from your executive the knowledge that he or she has about how best to do it. Saying, well, I'm only going to do it the way the board wants me to. You will probably sub-optimize the result. And any good executive will find another job. So don't do it. You want the outcome, you don't want the method, except it needs to be ethical. Under the ethical, but there are many ways to skin a cat, and your executive probably knows the best, although it is very appropriate for the executive if he or she would like your input to say, I'm grappling with this one. What do you guys think? That's a very appropriate role for a board to respond to sort of help me think this through. Bob and I used to do this regularly. How should the board be organized? And that's absent statutory mandate for how you're organized. It's really up to you. What you have, vice chair? Do you have committees? Again, your statute may tell you what to do, but in the absence of a statutory mandate, you have an opportunity to structure yourself in a manner that you think will make the board most effective, most useful to the executive. How should a board evaluate itself? This is actually really important. The board's job, of course, is to evaluate the executive, but the board needs to evaluate itself. How are we doing as a board? And there are, if you Google, how should a board evaluate itself? You get a lot of advice. And common on for-profit and nonprofit, but not so common on government boards, is a committee on directors or committee on trustees and a committee that one of whose responsibilities is to evaluate the board itself. How are we doing? Are we meddling? Are we appropriately reviewing outcomes and evidence? Are we giving each other a chance to talk? Is one person do all the talking all the time and everybody else just sits there? Those of you who just sit there, not good either. Those of you who do only talk, not good either. So there's a balance. Life is a balance, and being a board member is a balance. But evaluation of the board itself is an important function. It's a mechanism for continuous improvement, which every organization ought to want to do. How does serving on a public board differ from serving on a private nonprofit board? Number one difference is all your meetings are open. Public board. You can only go into executive session on very prescribed, typically personnel or legal matters. But if you, even evaluation of the executives is typically done in public. There's an attorney general opinion on that. It came out of the Board of Education's evaluation superintendent a number of years ago. But being a public body, being open meeting always is probably the major difference. You're also governed by the Sunshine Law, and that affects not only how you conduct your meetings, but how you conduct each other. You can have, and I have in Sunshine Law, I printed out the first part of it, part 1 meetings. It goes on for 14 pages. And then there are parts 2, 3, and 4. Part 1 is the one that is of interest to you as board members. Talks about meetings. Declaration of policy and intent, administration of this part, definitions, permitted interactions among members. 2 of you can have a conversation. Perfectly permitted. 3 of you cannot have a conversation outside of a noticed meeting. Unless the board has said, we want to create this called a permitted interaction group. Which is, it's a special kind of a committee. Committee meetings must also be open. Public notice, open to everybody.
Ours do not have to be.
Are you exempt from public meeting law?
For our subcommittees, our working groups do not.
It's
have to be.
was it in no statute?
The way it's stated, because we can invite both public and, board members and non-board members, and it's not subject to the sunshine laws,
In statute. Interesting.
which is a plus.
It's a plus. Actually, the sunshine law is much feared, but if you understand it, it actually is good public policy. If you believe in open government,
Mhm.
decisions are made in a public forum. It's good. So this exception for the permitted interaction group is the board can say, these 3 members, you often study this topic for us, not related to something about personnel things, but just what should we as a board do? You 3 of you, 4 of you, something less than a majority of the board. We charge you with coming up with a recommendation on this particular topic. And these 3 or 4, whatever it is, members of this permitted interaction group can go off, no public agendas, no public meetings. You come back with a recommendation, and the law provides that once this recommendation comes back to the board, it is noticed, put on the agenda, not discussed. The objective of that is because the public was not able to be involved in the formulation of this recommendation. Now the public sees a recommendation, they have an opportunity to think about it, testify on it before the board is allowed to act. So the recommendation comes, sits on the table until the next meeting, and then the board can act. So that's a permitted interaction.
Yeah, and our subcommittees, our work groups function that way.
They function that way? Okay. So you're.
We have most,
Yeah. Mostly. So that's a permitted interaction group. There are meetings, in-person meetings at multiple sites, which we've got here. Executive meetings, exceptions. Notice, you got to provide a notice. You have to make your meeting materials available to the public. Emergency meetings, if you need emergency, you can do it without the long notice, and so forth. So it is chapter 92, section 1. If you're not familiar with it, you can Google Hawaii revised statutes. Something will pop up, and there's the book on a bookshelf are like this. And you want to look for the particular book that has chapter 92. Click on chapter 92, and lo and behold, all of this will fall out for you. So that's really the difference between a public and a private nonprofit, is the requirement that decision-making be made open. And that's really got the end of my story.
Thank you. Before that, we open for questions, again, I need to give the public an opportunity to make any comment that they wish to make, and then we can open it up to the board for any questions that you may have for Randy or comments that you would like to offer as well. I see one comment. Steve, did you have a comment? I'm not sure I understand what it
Be right.
means.
Be right back.
Oh, be right back. ERB, I guess I should have figured that out. I have a comment. I'm sorry. And it tells you which generation I'm from. Good. Thank you, Cheryl. I feel better. All right, I don't see any questions in the chat, so let's open it up to the board to offer any questions or comments that they may have for Randy. Both those who are sitting here and those who are joining us virtually.
Staff can ask questions too, huh?
No,
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 you cannot?
I cannot.
Sorry about that.
Ask after. No questions from the board, no comments?
Okay, well, let me summarize this. You're a governing board, you're not a management committee. You don't solve problems, you have an executive to do that. You don't macromanage, much less micromanage. And you meet in public, you operate ethically, and you do all that, you will be just fine. You'll have a great organization. Focus on outcomes. Somebody told me just recently, when I'm back at the Department of Education, activity is not a substitute for action. And outputs are not a substitute for outcomes. You want results, you don't want activity.
And I would really like to second your statement about the board's job is not to solve problems.
Probably the hardest thing for a board to do is to resist the urge when somebody plops a problem on the table to solve it.
And most of us sit in roles where that's what we do all day.
It's
We solve
human
problems.
impulse, fix the problem.
And that's what people expect us to do in our job. But when you come to the boardroom, to keep in mind that the problem solver sits right there at the moment. And our job is to help say, does this problem, the way it's being addressed, support the outcomes that we have set for, you know, the work that we're doing in the goal. So I think that's a critically important piece to keep in mind. And we get caught up in, I like your distinction, Randy, between the micro versus macro management. Because we all say, well, boards don't micromanage. But it's the word manage. That is the interference here. And that's the key one. And I have to say, having worked with Randy so directly over the years, he certainly was somebody who kept that distinction pretty clear. And it may be necessary for the director at times to say to the board, this is really not your issue. This is really the province of our role. But hopefully the chair will be the person who guides the board so that they don't find themselves having to deal with that particular issue throughout. Well, Randy, thank you.
The board chair is an interesting job because you're the principal liaison with the executive. And then you've got board members, and sometimes chairing a board is hurting the cats because they, first of all, do they all understand all this stuff? And they can understand it intellectually, but when it comes time to operationalize it, and the problem is sitting on the table, they are time remembering my job is not to solve the problem. So the board chair's job is to keep a light rein on the board members, and here's our job. Decision comes, provide context. Here's why we're here talking about this today. Good chair is good. Good chair is good. Good chair really it helps the executive.
And your next chair will be a good chair. I guarantee. Um, thank you, Randy. I really appreciate it. Sharing the information with us all and reminding us of what our job really is all about.
If anybody would like, maybe you would like to chair at the end of the meeting?
I'm sorry?
Are you gonna like to chair at the end of the meeting?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, you can give the chair the
Okay.
sunshine law.
I know, the sunshine law is delightful reading. One of the wonderful things is that the board does have, and the board chair has guidance from somebody in the Attorney General's office and the Deputy Attorney General. And that person is very helpful when you don't understand exactly what's being stated in the sunshine law. So there are
Yes.
times when the language, for me anyway, was a little bit too on the legal side. And I needed some help interpreting, how does this look in the real world? And what is the function like? So know that there are people for guidance too, for the board, that we're not in this alone as we begin to learn about it. But it also reinforces the importance of doing the training, and the sooner the better for you to do that, so that you really are thinking in this fashion. Randy's kind of set up the framework for us to do it. Now, once you do the training, you'll have an idea more specifically of how you function within that framework that Randy shared with us today. So
Do you have a deputy AG here? Anybody here in the AG's office?
not, we have somebody online with us, but
Oh,
not
okay.
not here directly today. In a mix, just because we do hybrid meetings.
Mhm.
But we will probably, I mean, I don't know whether the new AJ will come personally to meetings or not. And whether or not this board will become an in-person board, which is a decision it needs to make.
There's a question ready for it.
Go ahead. Who has?
There's a question in the chat whenever you're ready for it from community, but I don't know.
Yeah, the question has to do with, does the early learning board have their own deputy attorney general? The answer is yes. It is not the same as the organization, the ELB, that's a different person. Okay, we'll let you go, because I know you have other things to do this afternoon, and thank you again for joining us, Randy.
Okay, good luck.
Okay.
Thanks.
And the next item on the agenda was related to the Maui fire impacts related to early care and learning. I had hoped that we would have someone from Maui directly to share with us today what the situation was, but that hasn't been possible. So if anyone has any comments they wish to share, either from the public side or on the board regarding the current situation in Maui related to the fire impacts on the early childhood community, we certainly have time to hear them. If not, we'll move on to item number 7. Is there anyone who wishes to share any information?
Hi, it's Elaine. I haven't been able to talk to Kaina lately, but I know that she had pulled together a group of people to address issues around accessing early care and education. So what I do know too, though, is that some programs, at least one program that was in Lahaina town, is not going to be open. And the need for staffing in Lahaina has always been an issue, and it continues to be a very present issue. So that's all I know right now.
Well, that's helpful because we haven't heard from Katina for about 2 months now, so this is the second month. So, and she's been very good about keeping us updated, but evidently wasn't able to join us for this meeting today. Thank you, Elaine. All right, let's move on to item number 7, which is the election of the board chair. And I'm going to ask Matt if he would introduce the conversation. We'll open it up after he shares a bit about where the process is at, to any public comment, and then we'll move forward with the action that's needed to be taken. Matt?
Thanks, Bob. Can everybody hear me? Are you good?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you too for your patience while I was flying back from Pittsburgh. So let me just go over the process. So nominations for board chair opened on Thursday, May 9th at the announcement during the early learning board meeting, and closed at 4:30 p.m. on Friday, May 24th. I received one self-nomination and a nomination for another candidate. I did not receive a verification of interest from the other candidate. So we have one member on the ballot for chair. So what I'm going to do today is email all of the board members, with the exception of Cowie Burgess, because she is not eligible to vote because she's on that the other board at the moment. So Bob, the board members that are in the room, can you verify that they have access to their email?
Yes, everybody does. We're all
Okay.
set.
Okay, so what I will do is I will email you the ballots. If you please reply, but do not reply to all, there's instructions. Just reply and then cast your vote for the candidate, yes, no, or abstain. And we'll pause for about 5 minutes or so while people use their technology. And if there's any questions or difficulties, chime in and let me know, and we'll figure those out.
Matt,
Yes.
this is Steve Schatz. So two questions. One is, can non-voting members be the chair? And then the second one is, are you asking voting members to vote on who the chair is?
Non-voting members cannot be the chair, and non-voting members will not receive a ballot. So only the new voting members will be.
Got it. Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah.
It's Steve, in the statute, it says that there is elected by a majority of the voting members of the board.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I have no problem with that. I was just clarifying. Yeah.
Yep, but thank you. Okay.
Okay, so did you want to ask if there's any public comment or any questions from the
any public comment? See nothing in the chat. Any questions from board members before we proceed? All right, let's go ahead.
All right. In the ballot, I also asked to please CC to Rochelle Mahoy. That's our backup in case my email goes down. So I am going to send the email right now. It'll be coming from Matthew Shim at doh.hawaii.gov. And the ballot has been sent.
That's good.
Thanks.
Okay. Lindsay, did you get it? Okay. All the people in person received it.
Okay.
taking an exam.
Nicola sent me a note. She lost connection and was trying to reconnect, so I don't know if she can.
Hello, it's Elaine. I'm trying to do this on my phone and I can't figure out how to send the email. So, yeah, I figured out how to reply, but for some reason it's not showing me a send. And if anybody has a tip, please let me know.
Is there a large blue arrow towards the upper right-hand side of the email?
I'll look.
Nobody left you, right?
Got it. I have to, yeah, got it. Thanks.
So you're okay.
All right, thank you, everybody. I received all 7 ballots, and there was a unanimous decision for the new chair, and the new chair is Elaine Yamashita. Congratulations.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you, everybody. Pretty excited.
Congratulations, Elaine. Anything you wish to say? No, other than pretty exciting?
I look forward to continuing to tap your knowledge, Bob, because you have been doing this for so long. But I really, I wanted to thank you for all the years that you have devoted to this board in its many iterations. And your work is very, very much appreciated.
Do know that you can pick my brain, what's left of it. And I'm to be helpful, and certainly Yuko and I should make a plan pretty soon to sit down and talk about the regular things that the chair needs to be thinking about, so we can make that arrangement. Matt, I want to thank you for hopping off a plane today from the East Coast and jumping in and making this all happen, and Rochelle for being backup, knowing that
Yes,
we
thank
had you
you.
all there so that this could work. And Elaine, I want to share with you also that Christina has offered to continue hosting meetings here at the Seed Center. So that's something you should consider in the future, and we can talk further about it. But it gives me an opportunity also to thank Christina and Lynette for the years now, allowing us to use this wonderful place to come to, and troubleshooting when we ran into problems around the digital world and the technology over the period of time, and always graciously hosting and providing us wonderful cookies to munch on. Keep the energy going when the meeting might have been a little heavy or not quite as thrilling as we hoped it would be. So Christina, we really have appreciated it. very, very much the generosity that you shared with us in this particular place. And for those of you who don't know, Christina, at one point when we were the advisory board, served as the vice chair and served on the advisory board for many, many years. So we have much appreciated her support, both as a full board and privately as well.
Bob, I just have one more thing. Board members, I am available. You can send me feedback. If you any feedback you want to send about the election ballot process. This is brand new. We just kind of made it up and presented to the board. So if you have other ideas, we're open to that. So thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. All right, the final item on the agenda today is to review the outcomes. The two key outcomes we had today is a better overview of the role and responsibilities of a public board member provided by Randy Moore, and the exciting election of a new chair, Elaine Yamashita, who will assume her duties for the next meeting, and actually at about 3:05, we'll assume them totally. And I'm happy to be available, Elaine, as I said, and if I can be of help. I'm also planning to stay out of the way as the new board moves forward. So thank you to everyone who's offered support, and it's been a pleasure working with all of you these many years, and to see this board become the board it's become, from a non-governing board to becoming a functioning governing board. And so appreciative of all the non-voting members for whom it is a challenge to sit and go through the meetings, but have your voice limited in terms of the actual action being taken, and appreciate all the good support that comes from the agencies, particularly, who are all part of this totality of helping to raise children and families in our state. So best wishes as you continue your work, and my thanks to all of you for the support I've received over the years. And I will officially close this meeting. Aloha, everyone.